For over 30 years, we have been advocates of parental choice in education. That's not surprising. I've talked about this a lot. 30 years ago, we had an attorney general in Texas who infamously said that he didn't believe parents were qualified to raise their children, much less teach them at home. Obviously, we strongly disagree with that. We believe that parents have a God-given right to direct the care, control, and upbringing of their children, which includes their education. And of course, that is the foundation for our right as parents to teach our kids at home or to homeschool them. So increasingly, as I have mentioned over the last months, parental choice in education has become a bigger and bigger issue. I've talked about the fact that parents are responding in two ways to what they discovered during the pandemic. Many parents discovered that their children were being taught things they were shocked by. And so parents have responded to those things in really a couple of ways. One is they've got involved in their school boards. They've gone to their school boards. They've become school advocates for their children. They've looked at curriculum. They've looked at books that are in the schools. And increasingly in Texas, we have seen public schools that have inappropriate books in their libraries, inappropriate from a sexual standpoint. We've seen curriculum that includes critical race theory elements. We've seen transgender issues in the public schools. So primarily, parents have responded by becoming involved as advocates, as activists to try to change the policies of their local schools. I mentioned in our last podcast that we've seen that at the state level with the State Board of Education and the debate over standards, educational standards for the social studies program, and how that vote was postponed because of activists who had real serious problems with those things. But there's another way that people are actually responding, and that is some parents are just saying, you know, I'm going to withdraw my kids and I'm going to teach them at home. And we've seen continued record numbers. I think recently we pointed out that according to the Texas Education Agency, last year there was a 40% increase in the number of parents, I should say the number of students who were withdrawn from the public schools in order to be homeschooled. However, another area that we are seeing this whole debate take place is in the area of parental choice in terms of funding. In January of this year, our Arizona Governor Doug Ducey made a speech in which he said that parents should be able to send their children to the schools of their choice and have the funding follow the student rather than the institution. And he invited the Arizona legislature to send him a bill codifying that, and that he would sign it into law. And in June of this year, he did exactly that. And he signed a bill into law that made Arizona the leading state in the country with parental choice education, allowing the funding to follow the student instead of the institution. So now in Arizona, 1.1 million students have the opportunity to opt out of the public school and choose a school or homeschool of their choice and have the funding follow that student. So interestingly, in January of this year, Governor Abbott also said that he wanted to see a parental rights bill, a parental education bill of rights adopted, and we support that effort. And one of those things he's included was a constitutional amendment, which we are very, very excited about. But he also said this in July. He said parents should not be forced to send their child to a government-mandated school that teaches critical race theory or is forcing their child to wear a face mask against their parents' desire or is forcing them to attend a school that is not safe. And man, we certainly support that as well. So Governor Abbott seems to be doubling down on his support for a parental choice in education. That is, education funding that follows the student and not the institution. In 2017, THSC supported a poll of homeschoolers in Texas to see what their support or opposition was to parental choice education that would empower parents and families by having the funding follow the student and not the institution. What we found was over 70% of homeschoolers in 2017, and I would dare say that number is larger today, supported that element of parental choice in education. And so we support that. In fact, in a recent reading of T.R. Fehrenbach's seminal history of Texas called Lone Star, A History of Texas and the Texans, I found that Texas, until Reconstruction after the Civil War, funded education by sending parents money to support the education of their children. So one could argue that Texas has a history of that kind of funding, of sending education funding to the parent to follow the child instead of an institution. So Texas homeschoolers have long known that education directed by the parent is the best opportunity for education that is best for the child and is best for the state. So we are supporting the Governor Abbott's agenda of parental choice education. We support his agenda in a constitutional amendment to support that and a parental rights legislation that protects parents. And of course, this is all upcoming. It's now October, and the midterm elections are upon us, and elections that we vote in for the state legislature and the federal Congress will set the agenda for the next legislative session. And so we certainly encourage parents, homeschoolers, to be registered to vote. I can't tell you how often we've run into situations where parents who have never been involved politically or in public policy all of a sudden become aware of some local school board or some state legislative committee that is looking at passing legislation or policies or ordinances at the city council level that impact our freedom to homeschool. So don't wait until it's too late. Register to vote. Find out where these candidates stand and vote for vote for candidates who support parents in their right to direct the care, control, and upbringing of their children. And I think, as Governor Ducey in Arizona said, it's time to adopt legislation to give parents more choices. Not only will that not hurt public schools, in fact, in 30 other states that have adopted this kind of legislation, it doesn't hurt public schools. It actually helps them because they become more responsive to the parents. And also, in all of these states that have done this, not one state has seen private schools or homeschools being detrimentally impacted as a result of future legislation. So the important thing for us then, we believe today, is in supporting our God-given right as parents to direct the care, control, and upbringing of our children, including their education, we need to support parental choice legislation and education reform. So thank you for watching this. I hope you'll subscribe to our channel, share this video, and click on the links below for more information. And thank you for helping us elect people who support parental choice in education.